Good evening, everyone. Hello and welcome. I'm Jason Kutchme, the Executive Director of the Toledo Lucas County Public Library. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm going to apologize in advance in case my children or dogs decide to make some noise at the intro during this introduction. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope that for those of you that ordered dinner and a copy of the book delivered by Tree City Catering are enjoying your meal. We had so much fun adapting this author's series to this new virtual model. I'm really excited to announce more authors' dates soon. I know many of you are enjoying meals from the cookbook from our guest tonight, and I'm looking forward to having my meal a little bit later this evening as well. I want to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsor, the Library Legacy Foundation, for their generous financial support. As you know, gifts to the foundation allow the library to continue to offer great programs like the one that you're seeing tonight, along with countless others. We're also incredibly grateful for our presenting media sponsor, the Blade and Buckeye Broadband, our supporting sponsors as well, the Bureau Group, and our community sponsor, the Friends of the Library. Tonight's program is being recorded and will be uploaded to the library YouTube channel, and we have staff monitoring the Facebook Live and Zoom chat functions, so please do send in your questions and we'll have a Q&A at the end of the event. Tonight, we are going to be joined by two very special guests who both played a pivotal role in putting together the What to Eat When cookbook. Our first guest is the executive chef at Cleveland Clinic's Center for Integrative and Lifestyle Medicine. He is a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America. He cooked for scientists in the 1997 to 1978 U.S. Antarctic expedition, and he was a competing member in the 1992 U.S. Culinary Olympics, where he won 5 gold medals. He is also the founder of the national award-winning program Food is Knowledge, and he will be demonstrating how to make garden chive dip, one of the many recipes in the book from later this evening. We'll also be joined by a frequent guest at the library, and I say frequent because this is our second chance to bring him with us. He is the Chief Wellness Officer at the Cleveland Clinic, Chief Medical Consultant on the Dr. Oz Show, author of 4 #1 best-selling books, and he is board certified anesthesiology and internal medicine, is a fellow of the American College of Physicians. He's also the originator of the popular realage.com website. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Michael Roizen and Chef Jim Perko. As we bring them up now. There they are. Hello, fellas.
Hi, thank you, Jason, for the nice introduction, wonderful introduction. So we're going to start right away, and I'm going to go to screen share if I can do that. And
I'm going to get out of your way.
And this is Chef Jim. He's going to leave so I can take my mask off. And hopefully we'll get to screen share. Boom. And this should be the screen share, hopefully. Let's see if I can get it on from beginning. Okay. So let me take the mask off for a second. And thank you all for tuning in. We're going to talk about both What to Eat When, which is the forerunner for this book, and the What to Eat When cookbook. And real focus is on doing intermittent fasting right. And I'm going to skip all of this just to tell you that we wrote What to Eat When to publicize the science of intermittent fasting and the science of eating right. And we wrote the What to Eat When cookbook to help people easily and deliciously follow the science to live longer, younger. And we'll demonstrate, with time permitting, 2 recipes. We're going to start out with what happens to life expectancy, because what these lifestyle changes are in What to Eat When and the What to Eat When cookbook are to help you live younger, longer. From 1880 to 2020, that's over that 140-year period or so, we've lived 2.5 years longer every 10 years. We think longevity will be the next disruptor and will be the greatest disruptor, because if you will, every other disruptor, like the chip in the last 57 years, has augmented life, but longevity actually gives you life. So this is the curve from 1880 or so till recently. And you can see that the first 50 or 60 years of this were longevity. And by the way, women are always have a little longer life expectancy than men. The first 50 or 60 years were due to childhood disease elimination, better sanitation. The last 50 or 60 years have been due to elimination of or management of chronic disease in older people. We think the next major change will be due to looking at aging itself. And now in pandemics, men and women both have a decrease in life expectancy. In the last pandemic of 12 years, that is, life expectancy was around 50, went down to around 40, and but bounces back quickly. So a pandemic shortens life expectancy at birth and population growth, but we've rebounded fast in the past. And as you know, we're experiencing two pandemics simultaneously now, both opioids and COVID. And our projections assume that we're going to do away with both relatively quickly over the next year. Because of that, we expect an exponential kick. If you make it to 2030, and if you're able to walk and watch this thing, you should be able to, you will be able to live 30 years longer. That is, that the life expectancy gain in the next decade will be greater than that of the last 60 years or 70 years combined, because we're getting to understand aging itself. That's why we think this will be the next disruptor. That's the key in this food choices and the what to eat when cookbook, is to prepare you for that. Now, all genes do is make proteins or watch other genes, and which genes are on or off are largely under your control. That is, when the Human Genome Project started in 1990, we had enough DNA for roughly 300,000 base pairs. That is 300,000 genes, but we didn't have 300,000 genes. We ended up with around 22,500. And people said, what's the rest of the DNA doing? And they called it junk DNA at first in 2001. But in 2009, they said it was no longer junk. It is switches that you control that control each of your genes. And at any one time, we have about 1,500 genes on that are making proteins and 21,000 that are not on. Those not on genes are in a thimble inside your nucleus that are silent, whereas these that are unraveled off the thimble have mRNA come next to them and make proteins. And you control those. So this is a heat map. This is 50 strips of genes, 50 people up and down. And you see the same 50, 16 weeks later and a year later at M. And you see, as they learn stress management, they turned off these genes. It's a heat map because red indicates those genes are on and producing proteins. And here they're producing inflammatory proteins. As they learn stress management, they largely turn those off. Conversely, these genes that are off that get turned on, those produce anti-inflammatory or healthy proteins for your body. All they did in this is stress management. You get to control it. Stress is the greatest changer, but nutrition is the second. We think you're going to be able to get an embryonic reboot. That is, if you think about it, when you were 8 cells old, you had the same genes you have now. And some of those genes, 4 of them specifically, control you getting younger or getting older and what those cells become. Because each cell, remember, at 8 cells, Those cells could be heart cells or brain cells or muscle cells or nerve cells. And which cells those become were directed by specific genes that you still have. Those cells also change your energy level. So imagine that as time goes on, your energy is produced by your mitochondria, and your glucose and fat come in here and come out here as ATP. When you're young, you take one glucose molecule and produce 32 ATPs, a lot of energy. But as you get to be 70 or 80, you don't have as much energy. You can't chase your grandchildren as well as you could have your children when you were 20 or 30. And even then, they were able to outrun you. That's because as you get older, you get errors in here and you produce less ATP. So when you're 60 or 70 or 80, you may only be producing 16 ATPs from a molecule of glucose. And when you get really frail, it gets to be 8. But with an embryonic reboot and the cell reproduces it, you get the mitochondria you had near birth with none of those errors. So you're producing 32 ATPs again. That's what's happening as we're learning about this. And 6 groups now, UC Davis and San Diego did it with these mice. This is their paper. The Harvard MIT group did it with beagle dogs. The Swedish group did it with guinea pigs. Now the Hopkins group has repeated the data from UC Davis and San Diego, and a group in Sweden has repeated this. A group in Switzerland has repeated the Swedish group, and a group in Italy and UCLA, India and UCLA, have redone it with another group of rats. And so what you find is, in fact, by activating these 4 genes, why they call them these names, OCT4, SOX2, KLF4, and C-Mike, someone will teach me. But when you activate those, you get younger muscles, a new pancreas, and a younger animal. But if you activate all 4 of them, that becomes cancer within a couple human years. But those groups were able to activate only 3 of these 4. They didn't tell us which 3. They patented that, and that takes away the DNA damages as well as makes these animals younger and lives longer. So I always disclose my conflicts of interest, and there they are. I'm going to quickly go through them. There they are. But the main conflict is that I do earn royalties on these books, so I hope you buy them. I hope you enjoy the food. Now, I always like to ask questions. What was Elvis's major contribution and how much it was worth to America? We'll talk about that later. What is intermittent fasting? Is it not eating for 18 hours? Is it nothing but water for 2 or more days? Is it getting to ketosis in any way, hopefully healthfully? Is it a mimicking diet that gets you 750 calories for 5 days? While you're thinking about that, I'm just going to tell you that it is all of these. Any of these is now called intermittent fasting, but there is a way of doing it correctly, which we'll get to be. Now, what organ hasn't been able to be rebooted back to youth by those 6 groups? Is it the heart? It's got valves, it's got muscle, it's got electrical system. Is it the brain? It's got a complex system of communication. Is it the kidney? It not only gets rid of waste, but it saves what's good for you. Is it your liver, which excretes and also makes protein and clotting factors and things? Or is it your bladder? Your bladder's complex. It's got to squeeze at the right time. It's got to resist leakage. It's got to know when it's time to empty itself. Well, it turns out the thing that hasn't been able to be rebooted is your brain. And the key is that there are a lot of choices, maybe, that have been shown to slow or even reverse brain aging. And I always ask question, none, 4, 8, 16, or 32. And you probably have guessed it, it's 32. So there are 32 things that have been shown to decrease brain aging. We'll go through some of those, but if you look at it, 8 are nutritional, such as eating salmon or only eating when the sun is up and avoiding what we call snake oil foods, drinking coffee, that's why I've got it here, enjoying nuts, enjoying blueberries, etc. And the amazing thing in this large study is that if you did 5 lifestyle choices, and the most important is healthy food choice, in this study, you decrease dementia risk by more than 60%. In another set of studies recently published in June in Neurology of 2 large longitudinal studies, those who rigorously ate the way we're talking about, which is the What to Eat When cookbook way, had a 60% reduction in risk of dementia, irrespective, even if they were E4, E4, or E3, E4. Irrespective of their gene type, had a 60% reduction in dementia risk by that alone. So you have a lot of power just by your choices of food and how you eat in decreasing your risk of dementia. So what is doing intermittent fasting right? Well, it's our response to the sun over centuries caused us to have a circadian rhythm, helps us go to sleep. It changes our hormone levels. So its job is to prepare us to be and to do the right thing at the right time. Your circadian rhythm actually sets you up to be more metabolically active. You want to eat in the daytime because that's when you process food. So eating the Wen way, and you can find out more about this book and more of the recipes at wenway.com, is to eat with the sun. Eat more early and less later. So you want to eat your first meal. For example, I eat my first meal around 11 a.m. and I finish eating by 7 p.m. That's the Wen way of eating, so that during the night you get 16 or so hours of fasting. That's the Wen way of eating. Most people make 2 mistakes during intermittent fasting. They eat their big meal at night and they concentrate only on the when and not enough on the what of what they eat. And the what is important as well. What means, if you will, that you eat only food you love and that loves you back. Food's a relationship. You wouldn't marry someone who was trying to kill you all the time. You shouldn't eat food that tries to kill you. Food is a relationship. You want to love the food. And Chef Jim is going to show you in a few minutes how to make it, if you will, sweet without sugar, moist without fat, and umami without salt. All of those things are possible. That's why in the What to Eat When cookbook, we put a lot of emphasis on technique. But technique, it should be that even amateurs like me can cook great. So while Chef Jim and Dr. Michael Croupain created most of the recipes, I got to eat them and to cook them again so that we could prove that even an amateur can cook them easily, and you can. And we don't want you stereotyping food. Salmon burger is my favorite breakfast food, and a salad is great, or even an egg white veggie is great in the evening. So remember, we wrote What to Eat When to make sure you understood the science, and the cookbook so that you could easily and deliciously follow the science to live younger longer. One of the things Jim has, this is a great, one of my favorites, broccoli with ginger tahini satay sauce. It looks great and it tastes marvelous. It's a great 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. meal. And they're joys, and we list the joys with broccoli. its anti-cancer effects and its vitamin K and calcium effects, but we also give you the references. So if you want to share them with someone or indicate why we say that, it's there. We also do individual videos. So you'll see Jim do this one today, but if you go to wenway.com, you'll actually get to see the videos, or we put them up on Vimeo on the Cleveland Clinic employee wellness site. The Wenway chocolate mousse, for example, you'll get to see that. Only 2 ingredients, 4 ingredients if you count a little salt and Grand Marnier. And we'll go over the joys of it, and I'll talk to you about those after you see Jim cook it, but no eggs, no cream, great chocolate polyphenols. Now, you want to avoid too high a blood sugar level because you accumulate your fat in the middle. That causes inflammation in you. Blood glucose attaches to proteins like hemoglobin A1C. So almost everyone knows what hemoglobin A1C is. It's like a hemoglobin with a sugar stuck in the A1C position. That means that hemoglobin doesn't release oxygen the way it normally should. So diabetics who have high A1C don't release oxygen the way they should to their legs. They get ulcers. To their kidney, they get kidney disease. To their heart, that's one of the reasons that you'll see in a second of heart attacks. But also, sugar attaches to the grout protein. So this is the inside of a blood vessel schematically, and these tile-like structures are your endothelial cells, and they're joined to the next one by grout protein. Well, what happens if sugar gets on that grout protein? It weakens that junction, and then a normal blood pressure can tear it apart and you repair it. So here's the picture of that happening, I hope. And here's what happens. You tear it, you repair it with this yellow stuff called LDL cholesterol. Over decades, you get inflammation behind it, and then all of a sudden it ruptures. Bango! And when it ruptures, then you get these triangle things, platelets form on it, and they attract a lattice network of clotting factors, and that stops the red cells from flowing. And that's a heart attack or a stroke or impotence or a wrinkle on your skin. Is there any difference between a wrinkle and impotence and a heart attack and a stroke? No. It's just the blood vessel it occurred in. It's the same process. And what started the process? Too high a blood sugar level. So 3 major problems. You accumulate fat in your middle. That causes inflammation, which makes that plaque repair worse and more vulnerable to rupture. You attach it to proteins like the grout protein, which makes it more likely to get injured. And as we've already said, it chronically gets on your mitochondria, reducing the energy production. So when it gets on your mitochondria, you get more errors because of free radicals producing, and that weakens that. So how do you slow aging this way? Well, if you eat smaller meals and less glucose, you have more energy at any age. And that's different than that embryonic reboot, which gets you back to your youth. So there's both regeneration and rejuvenation. And with the embryonic reboot, the cell reproduces, it copies the cell you had near birth, so you have more energy at any stage. So those are the 3 errors. Let's go and say, what happens if you eat more early? Well, this is a randomized study from Spain. They had the same number of calories, only the breakfast group ate the big ones at breakfast, the dinner group ate the big at dinner, and what happened? The breakfast group lost 25% more weight. That's right, a calorie is a calorie is a calorie in the test tube, but in your body, a calorie in the morning is like 0.8 of a calorie, and a calorie in the evening is like 1.1 calories. That's why you lose more weight when you eat the same amount earlier. Now let's turn to Chef Jim and have him show you how to make these. I'm going to quickly try and put my mask on, stop sharing. Jason, I don't know if you can get us to be big so that, let's see if I can get the video here. Nope, I want to start the video. And I hope you can hear us. I don't want to be muted. So Jason, can you show Chef Jim?
Full screen. So it's all yours. Thanks, Chef Jim.
For some reason on my screen, it shows you still, Jason, but hopefully on everyone else's screen, does it show? Oh, there it was. There we go. Okay, Chef Jim, all yours.
Thanks, Doc. Okay, Doc Cleveland, I'm going to take my mask off now. Sometimes it takes my glasses off too. Okay, so here's what we're going to do first. We have the garden chive bean dip. Now, this is a great recipe. That's, you know, when you go to work and you come home from work and you just want something to nosh on, this is a great recipe to nosh on, okay? And everything in here is going to love you back. It's cost effective. It'll last an easy 3 to 4 days in your fridge. And you're combining scratch with convenience. And so here's what I mean by that. You can go to the store and buy a 12-ounce bag of lima beans frozen in the store right here. So you just cook them as directed on the package, or you can microwave. And we put those right into the food process. Same thing with the peas. You can buy a package of peas frozen, just take out a cup, and we put the peas into the processor as well. Can of artichokes, just rinse them off. We got 1/2 cup of artichokes. You can get quarter, you don't have to buy the hearts. We got 2 teaspoons of fresh garlic, goes in, that was the fresh part. So the first 3 ingredients already were convenient, you didn't have to do anything. We have another convenient item in tahini. So we're not adding any oil to this whatsoever except for the oil that is in the tahini. Plus, when you buy tahini, a lot of times the oil comes to the top. You can actually strain off some of that oil and then put it inside. We do that. So now I'm putting the tahini. So right now I got 4 convenience items in here, but they'll still love you back. The lima beans, the peas, artichokes, and now the tahini, right? The garlic was fresh. That we bought ahead and you got to peel. Okay, so we got that. You could buy, I like to use fresh squeezed lemon juice, or you can buy it in a bottle and put it in, 5 teaspoons of that. And then we got the 5 tablespoons of the lemon juice. We got an 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper. We got 1 teaspoon of salt, and we got a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. Okay, so we're gonna set this down here, so I have some extra room. All right, and now we got 2 more ingredients to put in, but I'm gonna wait till after it blends. Okay. Pulse this. Then I'm gonna stop it for a moment, keep this straight down inside the bowl. Okay, doesn't take long at all. Okay, we're going to stop it now. Straight down the sides a little bit. Okay. And go a little bit longer. So now we're looking pretty much done. Okay, we got our dip, because the peas and the lima beans, they're going to process really easily along with the artichokes. Okay, they're already cooked. Okay, we're done. That's it. That comes out. Now we put this into a bowl, and I'm just going to take out as much as I can easily in the interest of time. Right? Okay, now once I got the dip into the bowl, we're going to fold in fine sliced scallions. I have 1/2 cup. That was fresh. And then fresh chives that I thinly sliced, 1/4 cup. Okay, that goes in. And this is our dip right here. Now I'm just going to mix this in. And it's got a gorgeous color. Okay, it's creamy as all heck. And I didn't put any oil in here other than the tahini. And I'm in the next room and it even smells good. But here's something I want to show you, okay? So when you have this dip like this here, okay, if you wanted to take it to work and have a healthy lunch or something to nosh on, now mind you, you got a lot of legumes in here. That's a great source of fiber, a great source of protein, right? As are the peas. But instead of using chips or anything to dip, we got broccoli. Now, on the broccoli, I want to show you real fast, okay? This broccoli is bright green, it's crisp, it's al dente, okay? But we didn't want to shock it in cold water, because if I did shock it in cold water, this floret part would be like a sponge. And if I went like this and squeezed it, water would come out and it would dilute our bean dip. Or if I made, as Dr. Mike said, the tahini satay sauce, it would dilute that too. Or any dressing or anything you would put on it. So when we cook our broccoli, we cook it al dente, we never shock it in cold water. I like to just put it in a paper towel because I like to blot it dry, just like this, okay? Because I want the broccoli dry as well as al dente when we cook it. Now what we do for our bean dip, so if you've got company coming over for the holidays and you want to give them a nice appetizer for this holiday season coming up, but an appetizer that's going to love them back, this will be perfect, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. So you just take the broccoli, put it around your bean dip. Now you've got something that's really healthy, totally gonna love you back, tastes awesome and delicious. And all they gotta do is they just pick up one of these broccolis like so, by the stalk part, they dip it in, and they got an awesome appetizer or something to nosh on. I'll leave this, Dr. Mike could show it closer, but everything in here is gonna love you back. It's a fabulous recipe, just like all the other ones are in the book and are designed to do that. Mind you, there was no oil added to that. Okay, now we're gonna do a dessert, all right? This dessert was created by a physical chemist named Herbe. Was submitted by Dr. Pepin in the book, our other co-author. And this has no eggs, no cream, no dairy in it. Easy, easy chocolate mousse to make. So I have 2/3 a cup of water here. I'm gonna put it in a pot while I talk a little bit about the mousse. I gotta bring this to a boil. Okay, so 2/3 a cup of water comes to boil. Now I have 8 ounces of chocolate. This is dark, bittersweet, 70% cocoa chocolate, Belgian Cowboy. But when we break it up, see how we got these little pieces like this? So I took a chunk of it and I just shaved it with a knife so I could get like shaved little chunk pieces, right? So chocolate goes into the bowl. You can see these little pieces just like so. All right, that's 8 ounces. Then I have a little smidget of salt. You can just put a pinch or you can leave it out. This time I'm gonna put it in. Okay, I got some stemware. And now I'm just waiting for the water to come to boil. That's 2/3 a cup. It's gonna come to boil real quickly. Dr. Roizen mentioned that you could put some Grand Marnier in it to flavor, but if you didn't want to use an alcohol, you could take an orange. And you take a microplane grater, and all you got to do is just grate very gently. You want to make sure when you grate this that you don't get into the pip. See how this is still nice right here? It's orange. It's not into the white. And then you get this beautiful zest on your microplane, and you could put that zest into the chocolate. And now you'll have an orange flavored mousse without having any alcohol if you didn't want to use alcohol. Okay, our water just came to a boil, so you can hear it now. As I go to pour, you might even be able to see the steam coming up. And so I'm just going to pour it all into the chocolate, and then I got to whisk it. And as I whisk it, I'll try to bring this to you so you'll be able to see. All the chocolate is starting to melt. And within a few moments, you got your chocolate mousse. The key is to keep on whisking till all those pieces are melted, number one. Number two, another key is, I believe, is shaving that chocolate, right? Because when you shave the chocolate, you don't have any large chunks in there that are cooling that water down, right? So look at, there we go. Man, we're done. Okay, so there's the bowl. I'm gonna see if I can lift my whisk up for you so you can see it. Look at that. And as this cools, it's gonna get thicker and thicker and thicker. But I'm gonna put some in a stemware and you'll be able to see it. Okay, so I gotta whisk, goes from here, there, a spoon. And let's see if, I'm gonna try, I'll do it right here so you can see. Okay. So I'm gonna put one more spoon on top, real close for the computer, so you can see what it looks like. There we go. So look, now you can see. Look how thick this is. See? Look at it. It's even holding up inside the stemware. It already got thick. That's your chocolate mousse. So look at this. See? It's beautiful. Okay? Now, if you wanted to, you could put some extra shaved chocolate like so, like I have here, and put it on top. All right, like that. Or you could put the zest in, or if you do want to put Grand Marnier, you know, you could do that as well, or another liqueur. But that's our chocolate mousse. So both of these are going to love you back. But here's what we like to tell everybody. Don't think about what you can't have. Think about all the things you can have. And that, think about all the things that's going to love your body back, right? And then that becomes your world. That's your can have world. And then you take it from there. So Dr. Mike's going to come back into the kitchen. I'm going to mask back up. And there we go.
And I think rather than, well, I'm going to go quickly to screen share and do a few more slides. And then we'll take questions and answers and why. There it is. Okay, so that's how to make food healthy, misspelled, with Chef Jim. Why am I not able to, uh-oh. Let's go and do that. And that's way at the beginning, so from here, so here we go. So that was the chive bean dip. You see the recipe, it's really easy. It actually looks better in, when he does it here. Peas or legume, protein, fiber, folate. Lima beans, protein, fiber, manganese, potassium. Scallions rich in allium. Chives, fiber, and vitamin K. You notice the trend. Everything's got fiber in it. The other, chocolate mousse, it is decadent, but has no eggs, no cream, and it's got those great chocolate polyphenols. It is really decadent and satisfying. I can tell you this is the chive dip, and you can see it up close, and it's really just wonderful on this broccoli that is al dente. And here is the mousse. As you can see, it is great. So now, some of you got the, I think the chicken meatballs. I hope you enjoyed it. Please tell the Toledo Library folks whether you did or not. Time-restricted eating in just 4 days of eating in a time-restricted fashion, every longevity marker changed for the better, and every gene function, they looked at the genes of aging, regressed, and inflammation regressed in just 4 days. So try it for 4 days. The people who do it say they sleep better, they aren't hungry at night, and they have more energy. Do it 4 days in a row. One of the other rules we say, remember, if you mess up, don't worry about it, because the sun comes up every day. That gives you another chance. The The science is pretty simple, and we go through it. It is a way, it decreases your biomarkers of aging because it turns on your repair systems and decreases your growth systems. And then when you re-eat every day, it turns on your growth systems. And every animal that's been studied, bacteria, yeast, mice, and worms, live longer, about 40% longer on average. What you're doing is you're harvesting old cells and making new cells. Old cells in the human being are like a piece of rotten fruit. They rot the cells around them to function older. So this form of eating is one that harvests the old cells so you have younger cells. So remember, nutrition is 4 components. As Jim said, it's you, it's food, that's the what. The when is eat in concert with your circadian rhythm. And you saw a little bit of what we go into a lot in the cookbook. That is the technique of preparation is key. I'm going to skip over this. Well, let's go through it. Eat only when the sun is out. Eat more early, less later. Don't stereotype food. Any food is good at any time. You can eat well in any situation. It just takes planning. Mistakes shouldn't disrail you. The sun comes up every morning, and food is a relationship. Love what you eat and make sure it loves you back. So that's doing intermittent fasting, right? I'm going to skip over a couple of these. What was Elvis's major contribution? It was he got immunized on TV by the Surgeon General. This is the first shot the Surgeon General ever gave. That's the head nurse in the public health service who you see is worried about the Surgeon General passing. That was in 1956. 0.3% of Americans at the time he got immunized had signed up for the polio vaccine. Within 8 months of him getting immunized, he did it live on all 3 TV networks in the morning. There were only 3 TV, ABC, NBC, and CBS, and on PBS, live in the morning and broadcast around the world. Within 8 months of him getting immunized, 83.2% of Americans got immunized. It wiped out polio in America as well as the world. That was Elvis's major contribution. So I want to remind all of you, get your flu shot and immunizations up to date. Take care of yourself, because as our Linda Bradley at the Cleveland Clinic says, you can't pour from an empty cup. Thank you for listening and watching. And Jason, I'm going to stop the screen share and back to you. So Chef Jim and I will answer questions.
That was fantastic, Dr. Roizen. I apologize for my clearing of my throat. Thought I was on mute. So thank you for sharing that. And you're right, flu shot, got mine a couple weeks ago. I hope everybody gets them. You're right, absolutely. One of our guests asked, do frozen chives count instead of fresh? What do you think about that?
Say it again.
Do frozen chives count the same as fresh?
Frozen chives and fresh.
Well, they won't have the texture as fresh chives, because if you take any green and you freeze it, basically you're blanching by freezing, you know. So if you took an onion or any plant, when you freeze it, it's not quite the same. Taste will be a little different. So taste and texture will be different. Nutritionally, they'll be pretty much the same.
Yeah, the nutrition, it'll still love your body back. It just won't be something you love the taste of unless you do love the taste of. So
Sure.
If you love the taste of it, it's as good nutritionally for you.
But you could certainly use frozen chives in this dip, because it's going to be in a dip, so you really won't notice it as much as if like you were eating fresh spinach on a spinach salad or frozen spinach. Chives are cut really tiny and small. When you fold it into the dip, there's really not that much. So then the answer would be yes, you could.
I want some of that broccoli.
I can tell you this tastes great.
If you use frozen broccoli, it will not be the same. There's a big difference between fresh cooked and frozen broccoli.
It's never the same. It's never 100%. Yes, we have organic frozen broccoli in my house. I feed it to the kids.
they love it. I will not touch it. I have a question for you.
Good news is if they love it,
That's good.
then the nutrition is just the same, Jason.
Perfect. That is cold comfort for me. Why do we eat big meals in our culture?
I can't hear you. Say it again.
Why do we eat big meals in our culture? It's our culture to have that big evening supper meal, and it's obviously counterintuitive to what you're telling us right now.
Yeah, the major food companies have gotten us to do that. That's not I'm afraid, you know, if you look back in our history, until 1950, we didn't do that. But we've started to do that now for the last 70 years, and it as you can see, it has made us fat, more diabetic, and more prone to a lot of chronic diseases.
So we were talking about kids earlier, and I mentioned, so should children be following the same guidelines you're mentioning here, or not eating big meals at night? Because obviously,
we don't have any data till age 18.
okay.
Someone tells you they know the answer to that question, I want to get the data from them, because I can't find the data on anything that talks about gene changes up to age 18. You would expect you'd like to develop the habit, and you'd like them to eat with you with a bigger meal at breakfast and lunch and a small meal at dinner.
And we don't always get them at lunch, or sometimes barely at breakfast. So yeah, that's a challenge. But 18 is helpful. That's helpful to know that that's a rubric. Obviously, we're in Ohio, and you are as well. The days are getting shorter, unfortunately. How does that?
And the sun it really is eating in a 8-hour window. So pick your 8-hour window, but the better window is make sure you finish 3 hours before you go to sleep.
Yeah, I'm taking that away as a good guide. What about these sort of fad diets like keto and paleo? I was just at Costco the other day, and now they're selling keto-friendly bread, and I was like, wow, I had no idea. I thought this would be great because I'm not eating gluten. I would try this keto-friendly bread, and it was still full of gluten. So I was curious, what do you think about those diets?
We're having trouble hearing you, Jason, but I think you asked, what about fad diets? The diet that is best for longevity in a huge number of studies is called Pesca Mediterranean. That's prior to getting disease. If you get a disease, then there's some specific things to reverse it. But to prevent disease, it is with a little fish, meaning salmon or ocean trout or sardines or anchovies. Those are the healthy fish, if you will. And basically Mediterranean, which is vegetarian, with using olive oil as the major oil and with very little saturated fat or dairy products.
What about supplements? Should we be thinking about supplements? I know I actually just threw away an entire bottle of one-a-day supplements because I think I read that in a book, possibly yours. I don't remember, but it might not have been yours. I don't want to attribute that to you, but just out of curiosity.
Not mine, because if you will, and we had 19 million people take the Real Age full nutritional program, and now, believe it or not, so Real Age is now used by 67 million people with some regularity. But the first 19 million took the full program. Less than 130,000 of them got a daily value from food. So we as a country, even if you try and eat healthy, it's pretty tough because we don't eat enough variety of fruits, vegetables, and other things that give you that mineral and vitamin content. So, for example, 83% of us are short on vitamin D. Even if you eat 18 ounces of salmon a week, you don't usually get that enough vitamin D. So, and a whole bunch, over 60% of us are short on magnesium. So a multivitamin, half in the morning, half in the evening, split the one a day in half, pick it up from the garbage can, bring it up as long as it's still in the container, and split it in half in the morning, half in the evening, with half a glass of warm water before and after. So from a longevity standpoint, there actually are 8 supplements that we talk about in the book that have a benefit to people for longevity, such as a little extra vitamin D, some extra magnesium, and we go through that in the book and the rationale for why their insurance policies essentially against an imperfect diet. There were 130,000 people who were able to get it from out of the 19 million, not very many, less than 1%, but some could.
One of our guests is asking, why warm water?
Warm water because it dissolves faster in warm water. So you want it to land in the water rather than on your stomach lining so it doesn't irritate your stomach lining. Warm because it'll dissolve faster in that.
Fantastic. So obviously we talked a little bit about some of these fad diets. Your thoughts about eating a low carb or a high fat diet, low carb / high fat diet. Where do you land on that?
You can eat low carb, high fat that is healthy, but it's healthy fats, omega-3, omega-7, omega-9, what we call the odd omegas. Omega-3 in walnuts and chia seeds and avocados and fish. Omega-7 is in fish. Omega-5 is in pomegranate seeds. Hard to get it because that's the only thing it's in. Omega-9 in macadamia nuts and in extra virgin olive oil. Those are that you can do that, but it's pretty tough to do that. And once you get disease, you really want to go much more with vegetarian vegetables, and most vegetables have both carbohydrate and protein in them. So you're not getting much fat that way, although if you cook them with some olive oil, you can get high fiber, pretty low carbohydrate, pretty good amount of fat. Avocado, by the way, is an ideal dish.
And I love avocado for sure. I have a question for you about, you mentioned eating cold pasta versus hot pasta. What's the rationale behind that?
Pasta is very, and most people have done this, right? They've eaten pizza in the morning. So they've not stereotyped food because they've eaten cold pasta or pizza in the morning. The reason is starch, which is what most pasta is a series of sugars that break apart pretty fast when they're warm. But when they're cold, they don't break apart as easily. They become what we call resistant starch, and it acts much more like fiber than does sugar. So the reason for cold is because your body has to do much more work to break it into sugar. It absorbs slower, so you don't get as high a peak sugar load.
That is an amazing rationale for me eating lots and lots of cold pizza the next morning. I appreciate that.
Remember to make it whole grain, vegetarian, low cheese.
My cauliflower crust, whole grain, vegetarian, pizza the next morning would be fantastic. That is great. Chef Jim, you, Dr. Roizen, you both have a love for this work. What drives you? How do you not get burnt out by the amount of work that it takes to put into this? Because it's certainly a little bit of work.
I'm going to ask Jim that first. So sure. Jim is someone who taught me an awful lot. So he probably is driven by the desire to teach poor idiots how to cook. I'm going to let him tell what drives himself.
Well, for me, Dr. Mike has been a caregiver all his life. I just cooked. And when I was in restaurants and hotels and clubs, basically I would just feed somebody's belly. But after 35 years in hospitals and working with docs and nurses, I became, and I'm really privileged and so proud to be part of a caregiving team. So what drives me is that I'm able to use any skill or talent and experience I have that I can help someone feel better and especially enjoy their food. So if I develop culinary medicine for Cleveland Clinic, my mission for that is that if Dr. Mike sees a patient and finds out the patient's got celiac disease, right? Well, gluten's not going to love that patient back. Or if they got Crohn's disease, seeds and skins aren't going to love that patient back, right? So whether they're on a Crohn's diet, a celiac diet, a diabetic diet, a cardiac diet, it doesn't matter what kind of diet, people should enjoy their food. And so I'm able to help people do that. That's what culinary medicine is. From how to hold a knife and cut and chop, how they can learn, as Doc said in the slide, to make something moist without adding fat, or if they got to cut back on their sugar, how I can make it sweet without adding sugar with, prunes and, berries and things like that got fiber, but also naturally occurring sugars. So all of that is what drives me to help people eat healthier. And if they enjoy it and if they like it, then hopefully they'll sustain that behavior change and continue to eat that way and make it part of their lifestyle.
And I'm going to just add a couple comments for Jim. Jim does run culinary medicine. There is a culinary medicine program at the Cleveland Clinic, so anyone can come and take it, or it's now shared medical appointment online. So if your doctor prescribes it, and you can take it, and so it's under, I think it's at the, in Cleveland Clinic parlance, you put integrative or lifestyle in our EPIC order form. For outside, I think you can go to clevelandclinic.org/wellness and get to the culinary medicine shared medical appointment. Anyone can take it. Excuse me. What drives me is very similar to what drives Jim. Writing a book, and I told Jim before he got involved in this, 80% of the work is the publicity afterwards, because there's no reason to write a book if we don't change behavior. So my mission is, if you will, to try and get people to change behavior, to understand how much control they have over their life. Everyone here, you may have never taken a biology course, etc., but you're a genetic engineer. Your choices change how your genes function. You control your genes, and that's the point I want to get across, that every one of the people listening gets to control how long and well they live to a large degree. When you're under 18, or especially when you're under 10, it's your genes. But by the time you're 50, 80% of how long and well you live are your choices that you make that control your genes.
That is incredible. And obviously, all of us would love to have you sitting in our kitchens, looking over our shoulders at every meal that we make, because certainly like those decisions are hard to make sometimes. We have the What to Eat When cookbook, and we have the What to Eat When book that we can have in our kitchens instead of having you there. So really appreciate your time tonight.
And they can take it out from your library, right? They can get it at the Toledo Library, they can take it out.
Dr. Roizen, you stole my lead there. Yes, of course. Yes, they can take it out from the library, or they can buy it from their independent bookseller. We really appreciate you spending the time with us this evening. Both of you, Dr. Roizen, Chef Jim, please, one more thing.
Jim's got one more comment.
Also,
Yes.
Dr. Roizen and I, every week, we do a video called In the Kitchen with Chef Jim and Dr. Mike, where we do different recipes. Dr. Roizen talks about the science, and then I demonstrate it. Doctor, you can talk more about that.
Well, no, you've had enough, so thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
No, that's fantastic. I had not known that you guys did a video. That's fantastic. I will dial in for that, and I appreciate you both letting us know. Thank you both for joining us this evening. Yeah, thanks for joining us this evening, and thank you all for dialing in. Listen to Dr. Roizen, Chef Jim. Thank you for your time this evening, and happy, healthy eating. Take care, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.